Today we're looking at doing video of singing birds. I'm quite new to video. I'm going through a very steep learning curve. I've been photographing wildlife for almost 50 years, but as a stills photographer. Although I did actually start off by shooting movie film. I had a single 8, a standard 8 and a super 8 camera system. And then finally I decided to make the move to the big one, which was a 16mm movie camera. I could afford the camera, but I found I could not afford the film stock. It was just so ridiculously expensive. So I had to give that up and move back to stills photography. And I've only gone back to video when I swapped from my Canon system to the Olympus Micro Four Third, simply because it overcame one of the biggest problems I had shooting video with the Canon, was dust on the sensors. I always had big problems with dust. If you use your cameras every day and you're changing lenses every day, you do get dust on the sensors. I would have them professionally cleaned every 6 months, but within a fortnight the first bits of dust would start to reappear. And for stills pictures, not a great problem. You can de-dust in Photoshop, you can get rid of it. Every picture has to be checked, but it's achievable. It's not really feasible to de-dust video. It can be done, there's a workaround for it. I've seen demonstrations of it, but it looks fiddly and I've never actually attempted it. With the Micro Four Third system, it's got this self-cleaning mechanism that really works. And if I do get dust on the sensor, which I've had very occasionally, the next time I use the camera it's gone, because the sensor has shaken it off. So I started keeping a lot more of the video I was shooting because no dust, and then started to treat it a bit more seriously. Another problem I had to overcome was my pictures looked a bit jittery, like a cartoon. And this was because I was ignoring one of the basic rules of video. Your shutter speed should be twice that of your frame rate. If you're shooting at 30 frames per second, you should have 1/60th of a second shutter speed. I was using much faster shutter speed, so each frame was really too sharp, and then the frames don't blend into the next frame as the video is playing back. Each frame should be slightly soft, then it blends into the next one better. So when I started to take that rule seriously, again the standard went up a notch. Other problems you get with video is jerkiness as opposed to jitteriness. Jerkiness is really caused by the tripod not being heavy enough. This is a carbon fibre tripod with a Manfrotto 501 head. I love video heads for stills photography, much prefer them to gimbal heads, but it's not really heavy enough for video work. I'm intending here shooting with the 300mm Olympus and a 2x extender, so that's a 600mm. Plus it's a 2x crop, so it's a 1200mm, so I'm really pushing the limits, and the head and the tripod is not really stable enough. I do have a much heavier tripod and a Miller fluid head, which would be more suitable, but first of all it's got a fault on one of the legs at the moment, and secondly it's a long way to carry it. And I'm confident here, once I've got this set up onto the branch this bird's going to sing from, I can just leave the camera running and then let go. It's okay as long as your hand's free. You start getting the jerkiness as soon as you start to pan. Even with the Miller head you have to be very gentle when you pan with it, but it can be done. So a heavier tripod will solve the jerkiness problem. Another issue you get is the sound. The soundtrack is usually appalling. So I've been googling this and reading about it, and apparently most wildlife filmmaking is done with the sound off. So that solves the problem. Then you've got to dub the sound on afterwards, and I've learned how to do that, and even with a singing bird I can do it. But with today's bird I am going to put a rifle mic on here in a moment. Rifle mic is just like a telephoto lens, concentrates where it's recording the sound directly in front of you, but if there's road traffic behind the subject, it will still pick up that road traffic in that direction. So it's not a perfect solution, but a rifle mic helps. Autofocus doesn't work nearly so well with video as it does with stills. It's much more sluggish and doesn't always acquire so accurately either. So again, everything I've read on the subject says that most wildlife filmmakers manually focus. Now that seems a huge step back. I've been autofocusing for more than 20 years. Now I've got to manually focus. I have the peaking switched on. Peaking is when the part of the picture that's sharp goes red, and it's easier to see where you're in focus. So I have that on, and sometimes I fit a 5-inch external monitor up here, and it's easier to focus on the monitor as well, but I do wish it would autofocus better. The bird we're trying to photograph today is a song thrush. Now, it isn't easy to photograph singing song thrushes. I've only ever done it once before. I did it on a campsite, a caravan and club site up on Dumfries and Galloway in Scotland. There were no tall trees, so the song thrushes were singing from low bushes, elderberry bushes I think they were, and the one bird in particular was very prone to showing itself rather than going inside the bush. But I've never done them before, never done them since. But when I walked past here a few days ago, there was a song thrush singing on the outside of the tree, very exposed, really showing itself. They normally go into tall trees and they like to be in the middle of the tree. But this bird was very showy. As soon as I walked up to this spot, it flew off. But I came back the next day, it was singing on the same perch. That's twice I've seen it. I went off for a circular walk, I came back about an hour later, it was there again. But every time I walk up to this spot, it disappears. So I've come back to have a go at it. If it's been there 3 times, very good chance it will come again, but I'm going to have to sit in the hide to photograph it. I'm going to shoot with the rifle mic, so let's put that on first. It's a Rode rifle mic, fairly compact. Some of them are rather long, but I thought I wanted one that would go in my camera bag easy. I'm using this particular hide because I can get the lens slightly higher up, and really the sight is too high. I would prefer to be up in the air with the bird, but this is the best I can get. And I'm just going to put a bit of swimming over here, not that I think it will make any difference from this distance.
So I had to stare at this empty branch for about 90 minutes before the bird showed itself. I could hear it, it was singing in neighbouring trees and even inside the tree we're looking at. It's just that one exposed branch, and eventually it came out. It then hesitated slightly before it started to sing. Now that picture is taken with the straight 300mm lens. I've taken the 2x extender off. And now that's with the 2x. There is a slight difference in the quality when you put the 2x on. It slightly degrades it, but it's very hard to see. But you do have to be a lot more careful to get the focus sharp. And having the peaking on really does make a huge difference. Now here's another bird that you don't get to see singing very often. And I was very lucky to get this footage. It was taken by chance. It's a bullfinch. I just happened to be in a hide and this bird came and sang in front of me. Notice you can't hear it singing. Too much noise, so the song is dubbed on. It's relatively easy to do, a little bit time consuming, but I actually quite enjoy the process of dubbing the song on afterwards. And another bird you won't get to see singing very often, in fact you don't normally get to see them, Setti's warbler, very much a bird skulking in the vegetation, very close to you. And when you get one out in the open like this, I was very excited. And I'm going, please, sing, now, sing. And you think he's going to fly off, but suddenly that lovely burst of song. Grasshopper warblers, when they first arrive on territory, can be very showy. They're summer visitors, and this bird on the edge of a reed bed was very obliging. I was photographing it from the car window, and I'm very close to it, so here I'm using the rifle mic and recording the song naturally. It does save you a lot of time in editing if you can do it. Later on in the year they can be very shy and skulking birds, but as with many species, it's when they first arrive that they're far more showy. If there's one bit of advice I could give you to filming birds singing, it's to head to the cities. You might want to go out into the wilderness, the countryside, but it is far easier to go to your city parks, your industrial estates, botanical gardens, sewage farms. This is where birds like wrens are used to people and they show themselves. There's no hide here, I'm just walking about with the bird and it just takes no notice of me because he's so used to people. The second bit of advice would be to buy a rifle mic. It does help to eliminate the background noises. Doesn't eliminate them completely, but it is helpful. And a chaffinch, again in a city park. London is absolutely tremendous for this sort of work. They've got so many tame birds in London, and most springs I go down to the London parks 2 or 3 times. Next time I would like to be showing you slow motion work with video. That's become my latest addiction now. I really enjoy photographing wildlife in slow motion. Thanks for watching.